We are the Church of the Larger Fellowship, a Unitarian Universalist congregation with no geographical boundaries. We believe in cultivating curiosity and transformation that is rooted in profound love. The COVID-19 pandemic has irrevocably shaped how connections are formed in congregations across the United States and the world. The Church of the Larger Fellowship is committed to being a resource within Unitarian Universalism and beyond. From worship to covenant groups, from classes to pastoral care, and from our monthly magazine Quest to our online community hub and our letter writing ministry, we have found ways to build connection and community even through the screen. We have been a model for ministry on the margins, providing services for isolated Unitarian Universalists, becoming a spiritual lifeline for our members in prison. The CLF supports the ministries of those who hold target identities: Blue, Black Lives of Unitarian Universalism; Trust, Transgender Religious UU Professionals Together; and Drum, Diverse Revolutionary Unitarian Universalist Multicultural Ministries, just to name a few. We know better than anyone how deep and meaningful connections can be formed, even from a distance. Unitarian Universalists have faced many challenges in these times, and we continue to persevere and fight for justice and equity for all people, especially during moments of crisis. We are proud to be a leader in this faith movement, and we invite you to get involved in our ministry. We strive to be a place where anyone from anywhere can find spiritual refuge anytime they need it. Welcome to the Church of the Larger Fellowship. We are so excited to bring you an all-new episode of The View. The View is a weekly Unitarian Universalist talk show discussing important faith-based topics from an anti-racist, anti-oppressive, and multicultural perspective. Every Thursday for the past 7 years, we have welcomed guests from every corner of the world. Our guests are writers, scholars, activists, and religious thought leaders who are shaping Unitarian Universalism and society for the 21st century and beyond. I hope today's show inspires you. Hope it builds your faith. Hope it gives you perspective to see the power of Unitarian Universalism at work in your life. Enjoy the message.
Greetings, beloved. Welcome to another episode of Voices of Unitarian Universalism, also known as The View, here in Season 12, our 440th episode. This gathering has seen a lot of shit in our society and will continue to, and we're here for one another today. That's all I can say. I'm the Reverend Dr. Michael Tino, one-third of the lead ministry team of the Church of the Larger Fellowship, our Unitarian Universalist congregation without borders or walls, a congregation that is dedicated to the liberation of all people, and will remain dedicated to the liberation of all people. And I'm here in Peekskill, New York, land of the Kitchewan, Wappinger, and Munsee Lenape peoples. It is a bright, hot fall day. It's like 70 degrees here, which is hot for November, and the world is going to shit. Mostly has been shit. Let's just be clear. The world that mostly has been shit is getting worse. And that's like, I don't feel like I can check in about light things right now. PC, how are you?
That's fair, Michael. Hi, everybody. I'm Reverend DC Fortune. He, him pronouns. I am in central Pennsylvania, which has been ground fucking zero for this election. and it's sunny here. I think it's probably close to 70 out there. I don't know. I'm feeling sort of like a garden mole in that I only get to come out when it's dark. I've been so busy. And yeah, it's tough. It's tough, but I'm glad we're here, and I'm glad. Look, I'm looking at the messages. We've got Nicole and Natalie both are like, "Hey, everybody! I'm so glad you're here today." And that's the truth. We may not be in great shape, but we're all here, and that's what we can do. Aisha, how are things on the left coast?
I'm Aisha Hauser. My pronouns are she and her, and I am on the land of the Coast Salish people, Seattle, Washington. I mean, the sun is out, and it's hard for me to, be as excited about it as I usually would be. Washington State did elect not the governor is a Democrat, but I hardly call he's barely left, but at least the person who wanted to ban abortions did not win as governor of the state. And Seattle City Council elected a progressive who is not a narcissist like Kashama Sawant was, who was not helpful at all, but made a lot of noise and wanted a lot of attention. But I think Alexis will be better. Anyway, I think the thing for me, this is the first election that I cried. When Hillary Clinton lost, not only was I not surprised, I was in a state of, I couldn't, as an Arab, I really couldn't stand Hillary Clinton. I'm not going to pretend to like her. And how many women white women said to me, "You have internalized misogyny." Well, yeah, but that has nothing to do with me not liking Hillary Clinton, who's a war criminal, even before she became president, because she hated Arabs. So let's be clear. This time around, I was in such denial. And here's what I'm going to say to you all. When I found out the day that I heard that Dick Cheney endorsed her was the day I doubted that she would win. Like, I didn't say it out loud because I choose that. There was something about that. And now that we're doing the autopsy of the whole thing, I'm like, they knew that she wasn't getting the Democratic support she needed. And here's what I'm going to say that I'm trying to go into a pastoral space, because it does, and people have been posting memes about this. It feels like the United States is in an abusive relationship and hasn't done its shadow work. This country won't tell the truth about its history.
Uh-oh. Shit, the censors are at it already?
I'm realizing that part of how we got here is an inability of a large group of a large part of this half of this country, mostly white people, who can't sit in discomfort. The idea of something being fundamentally different, that is much more inclusive, sent them to someone who literally made the most heinous promises that he's going to work to follow through on, because the ghouls around him, it's less about him, it's about the ghouls around him. And I'm wanting to not have, I don't want to live in fear. I don't want to have hate in my heart. I want to work to build, because listen, I come from an authoritarian regime. Egypt, the dumbass who leads Egypt sent congratulations to him. And I was not happy about that. So I don't want to go down any rabbit holes, although, but as faith leaders, it's like, I don't want to perpetuate the us and them. Yes, half this population voted for harmful policies. I don't want to hate them. I do not think that's going to help. I think for me, I'm speaking for myself, and I don't blame anyone for feeling that way. How do we hold on to our humanity? That is truly where I am right now. I was feeling that way during the election, but we are now entering a phase of fascism, and a vast majority, including people on the left, don't understand quite how bad it's going to get. I come from a country where when I used to go to Egypt in the summer, my cousins used to yell at me if I said something wrong out in public. They said you cannot talk. And then they finally started as I got older. They said you cannot talk about certain things in public. You cannot. That is not something I've ever experienced, and we're going to start having that here, especially in the red states, but in the blue ones too. In the blue ones too. So that's how I am. That's how I am.
Love you, friend.
Oh shit! Am I completely off?
No, you turned off for a minute and then you turned back on and you're kind of back now. So, well, we assume that Asia, who is having tech troubles, will be back momentarily.
Yeah.
It's, yeah, I mean, I think Asia is spot on in that analysis.
Yep.
And I mean, I will just admit that, like, my body hasn't stopped shaking. Right? Like, I'm having a physical reaction to this. I thought I had a fever yesterday because my body wouldn't stop shaking. My temperature was 97. Like, I don't even know what to do with that.
Right? Like I went to the doctors and my blood pressure was it like 120 over 55 or some crazy shit like that? I'm putting it up for I just figure my body has just dissociated.
And, you know, like my husband said to me, like, is there anything that we need to do to prepare ourselves? And, like, we are white folks in a blue state. You know, my gender identity is, like, none of most people's business. Like, I don't depend on medication to have, like, my gender affirmed, like so many people I know do. And, like, we're in a relatively privileged place. And he asked, is there anything that we need to do to prepare? Do we need to start traveling again with our daughter's birth certificate?
Yes.
Like, and the answer to that is yes, and I know where it is because until she was old enough to have a passport and talk, we traveled everywhere with her birth certificate. So I don't. So I'm, and can I rant for a minute?
Please go for it.
If another cisgender straight white person talks about moving to Canada, I'm gonna scream.
Fuck them.
Because, dear my cisgender straight white siblings out there, you're the folks who have to fucking stay and fight. You're the folks who have to fucking stay and fight for the rest of us. You're the people who have to put your lives on the line for our black and brown siblings, for our trans and queer siblings. It's up to you. Right now, like, the resistance needs you. So, like, stop entertaining your straight white cisgender privilege, thinking that any other country fucking wants you, because Canada certainly doesn't. Canada certainly doesn't, and Canada is about to elect, able-bodied too. I will add. Thank you, Rosemary, whose comment I will put on the air, who says, as a disabled person who cannot immigrate because no countries will take someone who can't work for the economy. Yeah, that gets me too. We need the able-bodied folks to stay and fight for our disabled siblings. And I'm just, I don't know. Canada is going to have elections next year, and their Trump-light conservative leader is leading in the polls by 30 points. So, like, Canada doesn't fucking want you either. And I don't know. I'm just so activated. I don't even know where to start. But I agree, Aisha. Hating anyone is not gonna move us where we need to go.
There was here's the thing. I think if there are people, I never post anything against what's the card Caitlyn Jenner. Now, do I agree with a damn thing she says? Not even a little bit. But I never want on my feed to have any trans person of any age think that just because Caitlyn Jenner doesn't think like me, by a long shot, if Caitlyn Jenner showed up on my door and said hide me, I would in a fucking second. So I don't want to lose that. So it's not my lane. Now, if other transgender people want to criticize her, sure. That's not my lane. And what I want to do is show up. Here's the other thing I'm gonna give some hard truths to people in the United States. There are 750 military bases across this world. We are the empire, and we have wreaked fucking havoc, including in the country where I was born. Wreaked havoc in the global south and all over this fucking world. It sucks to know that this is actually what we've sown. We're reaping what we've sown all over the world. I don't believe in collective punishment, and that was why I voted for Kamala Harris, because her courting the Republicans made me want to vomit. And they didn't. This is part of the abusive relationship. You know what, Kamala? They weren't going to vote for you anyway. So this bullshit, taking out the Cheneys to support you, didn't matter. You didn't support us. You didn't come out and be against fucking genocide and say loudly and proudly, be in your power. You didn't do it. And the leopards just ate your face. There's a song on TikTok. I can't believe, I don't know, whatever. Like that you think we're going, this is part of the abuse, right? Like it's part of the abuse that if we just make the chicken good enough, I'm not going to get smacked around. What I realized why I cried on election night, there's many reasons, but it's like, oh, I know this. I worked so hard. And this is a lot of people, I think there is a layers upon layers of fear and anger. And for me, that part of that activation is knowing that abusers are now going to be in office for a long, I hope it's only 4 years. People are like, oh, in 4 years. I said, please pray to Jesus that's a thing, that in 4 years something can be different. But
there's another presidential election.
That's what I'm saying. Like, let's all just pray that that's a real thing, because I sure as shit I'm not confident that it is. So I think, you know, to say, oh, I'm going to leave again. Can I reiterate 700? Where do you think a full fascist empire with that kind of reach, where do you think you're going to be safe? This country, they're going to wreak havoc, not just on the United States, because that's what we do. My question is, what are you going to do, military? They know that what's been voted in is bad because they've done it in other countries. So what is the U.S. military? While they have been conditioned to harm others, their conditioning is also deeply patriotic. So how is that going to translate when they are turned against us? That's my question.
What will military leaders do when given orders to attack U.S. citizens?
That's my question.
I mean, will they say no? I mean,
will they say no? They're
legally, morally, ethically obliged to say no. Right?
Well,
will
so.
Will they? that doesn't fucking matter. Do you see?
Will they?
On 1220, I said it first.
No, I said it first. we weren't 5 minutes in, and I said fuck.
It doesn't matter. Like that, they're bound, but maybe it does. Maybe it does to some of them. Maybe it does to enough of them.
Get the book On Tyranny. I just ordered it, and I don't even know if it's available on Kindle, but it's been going around social media. Historians are saying, and I think it's what Reverend Cecilia Kingman preached on.
Yes.
But yeah, don't obey. Don't obey in advance. Don't fucking obey. Like, one of the things I like about my ornery self is how much I am comfortable saying fuck you to authority. Like, everybody learn to say fuck you. Do it in the mirror. Put your middle finger up and say fuck you to authority, especially if you are a cisgender white person. Please, like, if you hold an identity that you will be for a little longer, nobody's going to be protected, but for a little longer protected in terms of the gruesome hierarchy of who these people are going to go after. And they've been very public about it.
Mm-hmm.
And last night, friends of mine, we went to a queer bar in Seattle, and I was a mess. And I said, you don't understand. I wasn't born here. Yeah, but you're a citizen. I said, he wants to end, because it's not just him. They want to end birthright citizenship for people who were born here, whose parents weren't. I wasn't fucking born here. So I'm not living under the delusion that I have some bullshit safety. And it's not about me. And I still have more fucking privilege because I do have friends that are like, we're going to fucking protect you. What about the people who don't? I'm in a fucking blue state, only 2 hours from Canada. Canada doesn't want us, but they'll take refugees who have a target identity. That I do know from Canadians. They're setting up refugees for trans people, for people of color. They're not going to take white cisgender people. Well, maybe they will. Well, who the fuck do I know? Anyway, my point is, in my rant, I do have an immense amount of privilege, and I'm still fucking, I'm not even, I mean, I don't want to say I'm not scared for myself because that would be a lie. I'm also, it's the weight of knowing that if I'm scared and I have a ton of privilege, what the fuck's going on in the red states or the people who are still in cages because Joe Biden didn't fucking end the gruesome deportation process and the immigration process. So please know, we had such immense complicity in the last 4 years.
Another book that has been recommended to me, recommended to the CLF staff by Sir LeBaire, our prison ministry director, Sir LeBaire Jr., is Between Dignity and Despair, Jewish Life in Nazi Germany. In the chat by Marian Kaplan, which is a history of 1935 to 1938 in Germany. Sir says it's been the most helpful book in his library on understanding the country we might be headed into. And I put On Tyranny in there. I put a link in our show to Cecilia Kingman's Berry Street lecture, which boiled down Timothy Snyder's lessons and several other really important work on fascism. But I'm going to put these in the notes.
So, where I live in central Pennsylvania, in my county, the vote was 75% to 25%. And I now look around at my neighbors and have to understand that 3 out of 4 of them voted for fascism.
Mm-hmm.
And they knew. They knew. Nobody could say you didn't know.
That's right.
And it's just, like I'm worried at what point will we get to the place where my neighbors will turn me in? Like, how do I manage my life? How do I do ministry? I mean, we had a vigil here last night. I think we had between 20 and 25 people, which doesn't sound much, except that we've got a congregation of 80 to 85 to 90 members, right? And so a good Sunday is 50 people. So that's half of our normal thing. Came out at 7:00 on a Tuesday night in November. And this little congregation of mine, man, together we signed and sent and wrote thousands of postcards. And I look around and I know that 3 out of 4 people in this county voted for fascism. And thank you. That is perfect. That is a perfect.
Cut the crap.
Is that What's your
That's
name?
That's
Gracie.
crazy.
Gracie. Gracie, honey, you just made the show. Thank you. So yeah, I've been doing one thing. I have this catchphrase that I picked up in 2008, I think 2009, when California's Prop whatever it was failed
Prop
for
8.
Prop 8 for gay marriage. And I remember I was living in Otter Creek, Maine, on Mount Desert Island, and I saw it in the Atlantic, I think, online, back before everything had a paywall. This picture of these people, these two people who were holding a sign, and I haven't been able to find the picture since, but the sign said, "Love wins in the end. If love didn't win, it's not the end." And I have held on to that since then, which would be what now, 20 some years? And I'm not saying let's organize, let's do, like, we need to feel this grief. We need to scream and feel it and cry and weep. And then think about organizing. Right now we just need to grieve. And and there's this part of me that has to believe that globally, every time this sort of bullshit rears its head, eventually it falls. And it's not done. If love didn't win, it's not done. It's not over. Whew, Lord.
And I'm going to agree with you that we have to feel what we feel, and it's part of what I'm going to be talking about in worship on Sunday. And I had a great meeting with Dante Hilliard, who's our learning fellow for worship, whose theology of worship is very embodied, and it comes from his upbringing as a black gay Pentecostal in the South, right? So, like,
Music director? Music director?
He's not a music director, but he said to me, and I wrote this down because I want to keep it in front of me, that we can't get to resistance until we acknowledge our embodied reality.
Ooh, hang on. Gotta write that down.
It is written down in my little brain here. Like, we have to get to resistance, right? Like, we have to get to resistance with the full being, the full weight of our being, right? However many spoons any of us have to be spent on resistance to this fascist agenda, but we can't get there until we acknowledge what our reality is. And there's so many people in our nation right now who are in denial about our reality. And Aisha, what's the quote you like to quote from James Baldwin about white people being disembodied? Because it comes to mind. You quote it so often, Aisha, and it's so perfect, right? That, like, racism takes white people out of our bodies.
I'm still mad at Channing about that.
Well, Channing was just one in a long line of folks going back at least as far as Augustine, who wasn't a white dude.
Augustine was a fuckweasel.
Wasn't a white dude, but was a fuckweasel, right?
Augustine was a child of a profoundly abusive family.
Oh, here we go. Back to that, right?
Right, who saw his father abuse and beat up his mother, and then when his father died, his mother tried to run his life, and he escaped from her, and she followed him to Carthage. Yeah, it was like Torch Song Trilogy gone terribly, terribly wrong. The Baldwin quote, do you have it, Aisha?
I have several. I have the fire next time, which is the
Right.
fire now. But the part that I want to read, and Michael, I'm not sure if this is the one, but we should certainly know by now that it is one thing to overthrow a dictator or repel an invader, and quite another thing to really achieve a revolution. Time and time again, the people discover that they have merely betrayed themselves into the hands of yet another pharaoh who, since he was necessary to put the broken country together, will not let them go. Perhaps people being the conundrums that they are and having so little desire to shoulder the burden of their lives, this is what will always happen. And then he does. I mean, then he says, "This is a letter." It's written to his nephew. This whole book. But at the bottom of my heart, I do not believe this. I think that people can be better than that, and I know that people can be better than they are. We are capable of bearing a great burden once we discover that the burden is reality and arrive where reality is. To exactly what Dante just said. Yeah.
Lalani's
And we
got some
do have.
stuff to.
Yeah, that's yeah.
You want to read that comment, DC?
Lalani writes, well, there's a handful of things, but most pertinent right now is, as 30 years as a body worker, I can say both and. As we remember ourselves, like we assemble ourselves, our bodies and trauma and feelings, and we resist when we do not give in to returning hate to haters, then we rest in our joy. It's real easy. It's real tempting right now to just want to punch back. Just want to go.
I'm trying to find that Baldwin quote, and I can't. And maybe I made it up in my head, Aisha. Maybe you said it. You're brilliant.
Well, one of the things that he says is, and I don't know if this is it, but because it's not a direct quote, but he talks about white people need to get their shit together because our destinies are entwined. That is not an exact quote, but it's basically what I, take away from a lot of his writing and speeches. It's like we are inextricably tied together. The power in this country, what won on Tuesday is the Confederacy, that this country was an outlaw. Lincoln was racist. He didn't want to see the country fracture, but not because he was a champion of Black people. He was a fucking racist. So he didn't give a shit. And no, part of Reconstruction was, he died. And the people who oversaw Reconstruction let the Confederates hold office. So this is a legacy of this country. Basically, the South have won. So that's part of reparations, is telling the truth. And Baldwin is very clear on that. And so was Douglas, and so was Toni Morrison, and Maya Angelou, and Nina Simone, and Zora Neale, all the amazing and incredible Black people, known and unknown, who have written, and we have to know our oppressors better than they know themselves. And what people who have not done their own personal shadow work, I'm looking at you, Obama and Harris, think that they could placate white people, and it's somehow going to work in this system that is deeply, deeply, deeply still holding on to supremacy, white supremacy.
Well, and I don't want to blame our first Black president for this nonsense, because that would just be engaging in more racism. And I heard an analysis the other day that basically said the Democratic Party lost the ability to have a progressive economic voice when we chose to bail out the banks and not the homeowners.
That's exactly right.
That was 2009, right? in the wake of the
That's what I'm talking
2007
about.
recession.
That's right.
And it was the Obama Treasury Department that made that decision that we chose to bail out the banks. They were too big to fail.
Was that Alan Greenspan?
And we let but we let we let the homeowners lose their houses, and we let their houses be gobbled up by corporations who hiked up rent and have led to a housing crisis in this country. And they said that was the moment when they made that choice that the Democratic Party lost the ability to have a progressive economic voice.
That's
I
right.
feel sort of like Saul, Paul, and Damascus, in that for a very long time, 5, 6, 8 years, whatever it was, 10 years, we on the left have been saying the Republican Party just needs to burn it down and start over, and they've completely lost their center and blah 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 blah. And it's just after Paul had his experience in Damascus, he had to go into the desert for 3 years and reread all of his scripture because he was a Hebrew scholar, and he had to reread it with an understanding of this new experience that he'd had. And it seemed like he'd been reading along fine, and then he had this experience, and he had to take the book and go, oh shit, it's all backwards and upside down. I need to redo this whole thing. And I'm thinking now that maybe it was the Democratic Party that needs to completely rebuild itself. Hi, Gracie. She just makes me smile back there.
Well, in some way, DC, the Republican Party did. Right? They abandoned conservative, I'll put that in quotes, principles, and embraced white Christian nationalism.
Yeah.
Right?
And
They're
we need to
the party of white Christian nationalism now.
Yeah. And we need to, embrace
liberation?
Right, liberation and collectivism and whatever the opposite of individualism and bullying and cruelty is.
Well, what's interesting about what the choice the Democrats made, which, mind you, Clinton did too.
Yep.
This has been a continuation of a long time of the Democrats embracing white supremacy, even if they pretend not to, or won't name it. And so when people got angry in 2017 at the white supremacy teach-in, the liberals got angry, and then there's been consequences ever since. It's because there is a need to keep up the facade among white liberals that they are different. And yes, I'm not. The threading the needle is, or haven't been complicit. Let me put it that way, because obviously, for the most part, white liberals don't want to, the world that's about to be unleashed in January. But there's been enough complicity, including with Democrats in power, including and especially Bill Clinton militarized the police, let me tell you, and expanded mass incarceration and privatized prisons. And so the Democratic Party has been so deeply complicit in basically what we need to admit to ourselves was fascism light. And sure, we'll let you protest, but it's not going to do anything. And our young people who camped in college campuses learned that the very, very hard way, that they couldn't stop a genocide. We couldn't stop a genocide. So the complicity of how we got here, I mean, we have to be clear that there's been some serious complicity from the Democratic Party. I'm not one to say they're both exactly the same. They both have been complicit getting us where we are right now. So when I criticize Barack Obama, it is because he had the fallacy in his thinking that if I do what if I agree that the banks are too big to fail, and see, he was a populist when he came in. He could have.
He was always a moderate.
I think he was always pro-Palestine until he became president. I mean, I don't think I think he I mean, maybe you're right. And he could have still, the Democratic Party, somebody could have embraced populist ideals, but they want to uphold the system that benefits those Democrats in power very, very well.
And you know, the big money donors got bailed out, right? And that's
Follow the
you know,
money.
and in this administration, you know, Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos will get anything they want.
Everything.
That's right.
Everything they want. And it's bad. Elon Musk already, his mother, why the fuck are they interviewing Elon Musk's mother? She said he's going to fire 90% of the government. Oh, can't wait to see how that fucking turns out.
Elon Musk, as it turns out, lied on his immigration application, so he might not be a U.S. citizen by January
20th. We're now going to learn what we know in Egypt. Okay, I want to tell you a story about what it's like in fascist. So my cousins, when I was still married, asked me to ask Wayne, who worked for the federal government, my ex-husband. They're like, can Wayne help us with blah blah? And I said, no, we really need him to help us. That's not a thing here. Like, I mean, it will be, but that's how it is in Egypt. You pay the right person who works in the right department. So let me tell you, Elon Musk is going to be a citizen who could vote and have 8 passports if he wants them in several different colors.
Like, I know it's not going to come to pass, but
I
don't joke that he lied on his citizenship application.
No, I'm sure he did. Yeah. So, I mean, I'm just saying, like, I think people don't realize the extent of an already corrupt system, but kind of pretends to not be that corrupt, will now be an overdrive of access. And it's you know what, though? I'm not going to give up. We're not going to give up on America. I ordered on tyranny. I'm going to watch Cecilia's Berry Street. And I'm not obeying. You can't have a dictator if we don't obey.
And I can't bring myself to give up on the lives of people I love. Like, the country can go fuck itself.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think I just sealed that I will never be elected to anything ever in my life, and that's fine.
Oh, Lord help us.
It can go fuck itself. And, you know, we have to protect trans kids, and we have to protect Black and brown people who are going to be rounded up, and we have to protect my immigrant neighbors. And we, you know, I mean, Eric was talking to me like, what do we do if they come after our neighbors who are, I mean, they're not like our best friends, but they're just the loveliest people we know. And, like, you know, their kid plays with my kid, and, like, what do we do if they come after my neighbors who are from Guatemala? What do we do? Right? Like, do we have enough space in our attic? Honestly, and I don't know. I don't know, because, I mean, I live in a city that is more than half Latino immigrants. You know, I live in the president of Ecuador, who is running for re-election next year, when he was in New York for the UN General Assembly, came to campaign in Peekskill. Because there are 2,000 Ecuadorian citizens who live in Peekskill, New York. Population 23,000.
Jesus.
Wow.
Right? So there are 2,000 voting age Ecuadorian citizens who live here. So the president of Ecuador came to
Peekskill.
Peekskill, New York. Like, he took the fucking train up from New York City and got off and had a campaign event in Peekskill. And, like, I didn't know about this until our little local newspaper reported on it afterwards, because I'm not Ecuadorian and I was not invited. And that's totally fine. But, like, what do we do when they come after my kid's best friend's parents? Like, what do we do? Like, I do not have enough space in my attic for 15,000 people. I don't. Like, I'll pack the attic as much as I can, but I don't have enough space in my attic for 15,000 people. And it scares the fuck out of me. It scares the fuck out of Fen Tuggle, who is writing us from Vietnam too, who says, "This recent election scares me. My partner and I were ready to start the immigration process to the U.S., but now I'm so worried about his safety. He'd be a gay person of color, immigrant from a Muslim background. I just can't, in good conscience, bring him to a place where his safety would be jeopardized. I really don't know what we're going to do." And yes, Rosemary, we are going to do our best. We're going to. We're gonna do what we have to and what we can, and I hope that that's enough. I mean, I hope it's enough to save my neighbors.
My
I wonder why my body has been shaking for 2 days.
I have a half sister who is looking into. She's like, well, both of Dad's maternal grandparents came from Ireland, so maybe we can get dual citizenship. And I said, that's very lovely, but our father is not listed on my birth certificate.
Mm.
I was born to a woman who was married to somebody else who had left her. In 1965, I was what they called illegitimate. So I didn't have a birth certificate for a long time because I was then adopted. And in Massachusetts, those laws were quite draconian. And they have since changed that I can get a birth certificate, but all it says is certificate of live birth. It does not list either parent. So I have no way to show, I mean, except, Ancestry, whatever, shows that my sister and I share a parent, and it's my father. But
the government of Ireland, as lovely as they might be, are not going to accept Ancestry.
Exactly.
Results
Exactly.
Unless
we would have to do expensive genetic testing to prove. But yeah, because she texted me last night and she's like, we're thinking about this with the kids and stuff. And I'm like, good luck. Maybe you can invite me over, right? Maybe you can invite me as a guest and I can refuse to leave or something, right? I can refuse to leave. But yeah, I don't have, he's not listed on my birth certificate. And both of his paternal grandparents came from Scotland. Again, that would have been an option, but
can I read a little bit more from so I highly recommend The Fire Next Time by James Baldwin.
I have that at home, I think.
The American Negro has the great advantage of having never believed that collection of myths to which white Americans cling, that their ancestors were all freedom-loving heroes, that they were born in the greatest country the world has ever seen, or that Americans are invincible in battle and wise in peace, that Americans have always dealt honorably with Mexicans and Indians and all other neighbors or inferiors, that American men are the world's most direct and virile, that American women are pure. Negroes know far more about white Americans than that. It can almost be said, in fact, that they know about white Americans what parents, or anyway mothers, know about their children, and that they very often regard white Americans that way. And perhaps this attitude, held in spite of what they know and have endured, helps to explain why Negroes on the whole, and until lately, have allowed themselves to feel so little hatred. The tendency has really been, insofar as this was possible, to dismiss white people as the slightly mad victims of their own brainwashings.
Whoo! What page is that on? Because I've got that book at home.
101 and 102.
Thank you.
Slightly mad victims of their own brainwashing. If that doesn't explain, I mean, that is, ooh, that wasn't the quote I was looking for, but it might
It
be
works.
Better.
It
might
totally
be better.
works.
Whew.
Mm-hmm.
I also want to say that we have to like work on our own collective survival.
Yes.
Yeah.
The truth is that not everybody did survive the last time he was president.
That's exactly right.
I mean, not even get into the million people
Who died of
who
the pandemic.
died of COVID. We don't even have to get into that, like, to know that the people are dead because he was president once, and that was before he had the full-throated fascist agenda evident. And this stress takes a toll on our bodies.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I'm not saying anything that, like, a million black and brown people have not said before me, right? Like, I'm not trying to make this up, right? Like, there's a reason why the average life expectancy for black people and indigenous people is less than it is for white people in this country. And it is because the stress of racism takes a physical toll on people's bodies, right? It's because the ways in which racism gets institutionalized in our healthcare system takes a toll on people's bodies. And this is going to take a toll on all of our bodies, all of us who sign up for the resistance, whatever that looks like, whatever that feels like, however it is we're able to. And there will be many roles in the resistance, right? There will be many roles, and we're going to take the roles that we can. And if it kills us, that's not the way this is supposed to end. I'm not even making sense. I mean, I have felt. I've written about it twice now for CLF about, like, trying to focus on, like, body practices that calm me down, and, like, even the best body practices have not brought my body back to any sense of normal.
No.
I was shaking so hard yesterday I thought I had a fever. And I took my temperature like 3 or 4 times yesterday. And my temperature was never higher than 97.2. And which is not a fever.
Mm.
And well, clearly I don't have a fever. It's not the right temperature. It's right. It's not like what my body should have been at, but it was not responding to
an infection.
It was responding to a foreign invader of a different sort.
Oof. So listen, we've got 6 minutes left.
We do.
Let's think about what we're going to do this week. Right? This is what we do when we visit grieving people. Let's think about what we're going to do today. Let's think about what we're going to do tomorrow. Let's think about what we're going to do until we see each other again next Thursday.
Friday, I am meeting with women of color for dinner. We texted each other.
Good.
And then Sunday, I'm meeting with another woman of color for brunch, and I'm meeting with friends all weekend. And I will say it has been incredibly heartwarming. Please reach out to your loved ones. Text them. I've had so many texts since Tuesday, calls from people who I haven't heard from in a long time, and it was genuinely beautiful. So reach out to people. Tell them you love them and you're thinking of them. What about you both?
I mean, I've got to get, like, my body situated, time and space, and I've got to. I mean, I have 2 congregations that I'm preaching to on Sunday. One guest preaching on Sunday morning to a congregation that asked me to do the after Sunday the Sunday after the election because they trusted me. they they had enough trust in me to say that, like, okay, they'll bring us what we need that Sunday, no matter what it is that happens. I mean, they asked me 3 months ago,
Yeah.
and then CLF in the evening on Sunday, and
Yeah.
like I need to be able to be present for other people.
Right. So
I
my
need to
question
spend the
is,
next 2 days getting my body situated,
right.
time and space, finding my breath,
Deborah
feeling
Pope Lance.
where I'm holding tension,
Mm.
engaging in the practices that I need to reset myself physically so that I can be there spiritually
Right.
for people.
Deborah Pope Lance says that in order for self-care to actually be self-care, it needs to feel indulgent, not just like eating your vegetables and getting 8 hours of sleep is not self-care. That's maintenance. Right? Right? Like getting an oil change for your car is not taking care of your car. It's maintenance. There's nothing special about that. Getting a detail, okay, that's sort of luxurious, right? But do something for yourself in this time of trauma and attack, spiritual attack. Do something for yourself that feels indulgent. Okay. Yes, we have to do the maintenance stuff, but you know, Maya Angelou said we were never meant to survive.
So
Let
me let you in on one thing that I'll do that's indulgent, and Aisha knows about this because I told her about it the other day, and my husband just left the house, so he won't overhear that I have a stash. I have a stash of chocolate downstairs, which is from French Broad Chocolates in Asheville, North Carolina, who after the floods and devastation of Hurricane Helene, their downtown facility was destroyed in Asheville. And they said, we need a community help to rebuild. The warehouse where all of our chocolate has been stored was fine, and we can ship out orders. Like, we need our community to order the things that are in our warehouse so we can rebuild the downtown facility. So I'm like, well, fuck, I'm going to order chocolate.
And I'll be virtuous while I'm doing it. How awesome is that?
So I have chocolates handmade in downtown Asheville, North Carolina, that will be consumed and have been consumed slowly but surely, and that is indulgent. Kit Kat bars are maintenance, but fine chocolate from Asheville is indulgence.
Yes. Yes.
Aisha, what about you?
I think I may go for sushi. I haven't had sushi in a while, and Seattle has some decent sushi places. So I feel like that's an indulgent thing that I may do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. I'm in central Pennsylvania. Honestly, there's not a lot here to do that's indulgent. But
yes.
and I'm on new medicines, which fuck up how I eat. So I'm not even like, I'm going to make a giant pot of no, I'm not going to do that. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm going to keep on keeping on.
Keep on keeping
on. And when something that looks indulgent presents itself, by God, I'm going to grab hold of it and bite in with all my teeth and do that.
Can you have chocolate? Can you have social justice chocolate?
I don't have social justice chocolate. What I have?
Halloween! Yay!
Right? Yeah. We have a member at our church who works for Hershey because we're in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, because you're Pennsylvania.
And she makes Kit Kats.
Oh, fun.
That's what she does for work. She makes Kit Kats. It's
awesome.
Funny. And I'm like, oh, that sounds so cool. She's like, yeah, everybody. I'm like, yeah, you hate Kit Kats, don't you? She's like, yes. So,
That's
but
funny.
yeah, I'm in the land of sort of shitty mass-produced chocolate, but
Gotcha.
I do have a little pile of stuff here. Maybe I'll cook something fancy. I've got cool ingredients at home. Maybe I'll do something like that.
Knowing you, DC, you'll build something, and you'll be like, I got this pile of bricks on an auction, and I
Hey, I got some fabric if you want.
And I built a hot tub in my backyard out of 17 bricks and 9,000 yards of
And a Bic lighter and some bubble gum that I got from fucking MacGyver, right? Yeah.
All right. Next
Funny.
week, beloveds, viewers, we are going to have a review, a repeat of a show that we first aired in March of 2020. Maybe this March, just that we aired this past March on caring for our transgender and non-binary beloved. DCU and Jess Hunt and I hosted that show, and we welcomed. We did. We welcomed guests from our UUA headquarters. It seemed urgent in March. It seems critical now.
Yeah.
So we're going to review that show in the hopes that information is still life-saving. And we'll see you in 2 weeks for our View Nailed It special.
That's right.
I won't be here because I will be on retreat with Trust.
Well, you have a wonderful time.
Yes.
We are going to have our Nailed It competition live on The View in 2 weeks. So you can catch that on YouTube and Facebook after it happens.
Yeah, maybe.
All
right. Thank you all for being here. Thank you all. Be gentle with yourselves out there, folks.
Thank you for joining us. Special thanks to those of you who give generously to this ministry. It is because of you that this ministry is possible. You can click the link in the description to give now, or visit clfuu.org/give for more information. We hope you will join us next week for another episode of The View.